What's up, guys? Nick Whittier here. I want to do something today. It's supposed to be on Sunday. I'm going to call it Cerebral Sunday. So I'm going to talk about part of the mental side of being a Melee player. Not so much in sets, but how to learn and I'll get right into it. So there's something that I don't think I've really heard people talk about that's really important, especially in this social media era of Melee, which is filtering through information. So by this I mean everybody has ideas, right? We're all Melee players. Everybody's theory crafted. There's a lot to know about the game, and no one knows everything. But lots of people think they know, well, maybe not everything, but think they know a lot. And they probably don't, but some of them do. So it's really important to be able to feel out which information is good or bad. And I don't just mean incorrect or correct. I mean, a lot of people just have legitimately fucking bad ideas. When I was new, I had a lot of bad ideas myself. I posted some of them on Smashboards. Some of them are really bad. I remember one of them I talked about like jumping early against Fox, then like reacting if he moved towards you with like a single hit in air or maybe a late up air, but I think I even said single hit in air, and like maybe wave landing back if they didn't. So it turns out this was a really bad idea. I was a noob. That doesn't really work at all. They can actually just nair at you, and you can't really react with an aerial. Your move isn't fast enough, or you don't want to trade your single hit nair with their nair. That'll put you in a terrible position. Or they can just nair at your landing, and then if they like overshoot, you're in bad shape, and so on and so on. It's just a fucking bad idea. So, I was a Smashboards noob, and I'll have to hold that one. I was wrong about something, but so I used to be on Reddit a lot. I haven't been on Reddit in quite a while now, but yeah, I used to browse it pretty often, and I used to offer my feedback, and there's a lot of other people who offer their feedback, and unless you read the site habitually like I did, you're in a really poor spot to be able to judge who's giving good feedback and who's not. So, I browse regularly, so I got a good feel for some users who consistently offered very bad advice or very bad opinions. And the funniest thing is sometimes people will just, flame and add additional, heat to their post as if that makes them more right, when it's literally just talking about something like whether or not Sheik beats Fox. Somebody can be like, you're a total fucking retard. Sheik beats Fox. Everybody knows this, but it's just that, Sheik mains are so whiny. So instead of like trying to optimize their character, they just whine about Fox. And like, that if you don't actually understand the game, that kind of sounds like borderline reasonable. Like that sounds plausible, but it turns out, it's just probably not at all true when it comes down to it. So yeah. Be skeptical when you hear things in the community. So there's a number of ways, there's a number of heuristics you can use to try to help yourself navigate. One, have you heard of the person who's saying it? If you have, they're more likely to have an idea what they're talking about. Two, are they good? So obviously if they're good, they're more likely to know what they're talking about, but this isn't like necessarily true either, right? So, if they're high on their local PR, if they're on Meomric, there's an added legitimacy to their claims, at least like if they're talking to you about, if it's Squid talking to you about Falco Dittos, he probably has a lot of good things to say. So yeah, the thing is though, then there's still like people like, Mango or even Shroomed or SFAT who in a lot of ways don't really know dick about the game. They implicitly understand a lot of things, and they obviously know a lot of things, but if you just talk about like a lot of, the mechanics of the game, they'll just be like wrong a lot of the time. A common one is to think that Power Shield reduces shield stun. So this is one where it's like, you have to fucking always tell people that this isn't true, and then people are convinced that it's true. It's just not true. It's just actually wrong. And People, it's just a common thing. A lot of top players are wrong about this. So yeah, that's a good example of a thing that a lot of like good people are wrong about. And I don't know how they don't know it. I think it's like pretty obvious that you try to shield grab and it still doesn't work. So one of the worst things is then we have commentators who are not very good, like I don't know, Webbs. I actually have no idea how good Webbs is. I'm just picking him arbitrarily, so not trying to actually fire any shots at him. But yeah, this is somebody who's not known for being a top player and who just like kind of spout somewhat acceptable fucking like meme shit, and then it really like trickles into the collective unconsciousness or whatever of our collective consciousness, unconscious. I don't fucking know. What's that Carl Jung shit? About our scenes perception of a lot of things. Even like Scar would be another good example. Maybe Toph is pretty on the ball about his information, but if you talk to him like in his room, I do think he has some out there opinions, especially like talking about Marth Fox. I think is really funny. So yeah, it's just like a lot of times somebody who has a platform to be heard will just like say things that are kind of commonly accepted but actually wrong, and then it becomes more accepted, so then like people seem more outlandish when they disagree with it, but they're actually right. So Nunn, another good example, talking about UCF, he just kind of used confusing terminology even though there was some basis to what he was saying. So the way he was talking about it was pretty misleading, but so he was actually, I guess, just technically wrong. But because he's none, and there is actually maybe if you interpret what he meant to say rather than what he actually said regarding pivots, then there might be truth to what he was saying, or there is truth to what he was saying if you interpret it probably the way he meant and not what he actually said, which is a reasonable thing like when somebody's talking. But when you're writing, it's a little bit harder, right? Because writing, you don't have like as much of a feel. You also have less leeway for error because you had time to proofread or whatever. So yeah, again, don't just listen to people because they're like popular either. So there are some like somewhat reliable sources of information like Cardano or Megas or whatever. Those guys are like pretty reputed, and I think you can pretty much take what they say as the truth. But again, you should always have like at least a tiny grain of salt, because people make mistakes, or people can be wrong even if they know a lot. They could even just misspeak. But try to be really diligent about exploring for information. Like try to, if something sounds wrong, try to do some further research. Tweet at one of those guys that I just mentioned. Try to look up on Smashboards. Don't really trust SmashWiki. SmashWiki is full of inaccuracies, or so I've been told. I haven't read it that much, but it has a bad rep among people who know what they're talking about. So yeah, definitely try to like be really skeptical and try to develop your own opinions as like a free thinker. You shouldn't just like have an echo chamber and fucking talk about shit that a lot of other people said. So as a Falcon main, I've had to play against a lot of like wannabe 20GX players, and 20GX, they're good players. They had some good ideas and they had some not good ideas, and that's just the way it goes. So like, for instance, I'm still not seeing anybody successfully reacting to like these tech rollaways with like Stomper Knee or whatever, especially on Falco, who has a really long tech roll. I'm just not seeing that, guys. Like I don't want to hear about how it's possible because human reaction time is this and this, and because of this and this and this is possible. No, guys, like, played enough. Maybe someone else can do it. I definitely can't do it. You shouldn't like try to recite some a line of reasoning as if it's the gospel truth. Just because the line of reasoning makes sense doesn't even mean that like doesn't mean that's right? Because like a lot of times you can like legitimize arguments. Like just think about it from debate. Like a lot of times both sides of an argument or whatever can have legitimate things to say, and that doesn't mean either of them is right. Even if you can talk about something intelligently and come up with like a good argument, it still doesn't necessarily mean you're right. So that's for me a personal example of where I think like a consensus just seems to be like actually wrong. And again, that's just the way it is. I said something that I wrote on Smashboards that was just wrong. I was wrong too. It doesn't mean like that you're an idiot or a noob if you're wrong. But so yeah, definitely try really hard to vet your sources, I guess, is the best way to do it. Try to make sure that the people you're listening to are actually smart and that what they're saying is based on like actual shit, like linking to videos showing it or whatever. There's a lot of things in Melee where it's easy to argue based on stats or something that something's true that just like aren't really actually the case. So yeah, I would say I'll just make some personal recommendations here. I think my blog is pretty on the ball about not having inaccuracies. I think Smash God is pretty on the ball with things he says. I haven't read too much of like Face Roll and Squid stuff, but it seems good to me as well, being guys who use social media somewhat often. I said those two guys because they used to post on Reddit, but I think they actually have some other writings, like Squid's Inklings is supposed to be like a Bible for up and coming Falcos, and already said Cardano and Migas are good. I'm not as confident in this one, but I'm pretty sure Practical Tasks is pretty good. For newer players, SSBM Tutorials is pretty on the ball. SSBM Tutorials is like not bold in its scope. It is pretty limited in what it says. It just actually says basic things that are generally correct, which is cool, right? Because it's just like pretty reliable overall. And there's one more. Oh yeah, I don't think there's been much content recently, but I feel like things that Topicans has put out over the years were pretty good too, in terms of like, he had some interviews with top players about like how they improved, and he has some lab stuff. He has lots of stats. I just feel like Topicans has done a lot of contributions to the community like that are definitely useful and full of good shit. So yeah, those are the ones that immediately come to mind. I'm sure there's more. Sorry if I missed anyone. I'm sure there's more sources of good content. The Melee library is full of good stuff. I can shout even a few Smashboards articles I think are really good. I think 4 Aspects of Melee by Wobble is really good. 10,000 Words of Power by Little England's really good. The one by Lunin about like different situations is really good. And there's one more. I actually talk about Topicans. I talk about it in my Topo improvement interview. I think that there's also PB's one about practicing solos. That one's a little bit dated with the hack pack now. But yeah, there's lots of good resources in the Melee community. Definitely just like talk to people about the resources and verify that they're reliable. And have fun nerding out. Just the outside part of the game. I guess the meta part is really what we could call it. Is awesome. It's fun. Well, nerds, the game has infinite depth. So yeah, it's Nick Whittier. Not sure what I'm going to talk about on my next vlog, but please subscribe. I got to make that slide to actually plug myself. Follow me on Twitter at NMW or tweet at me if you have questions, and so on and so on. Okay, later, guys.